Okay, just Rafat. Okay.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of pathCast. Today is August 4th, 2025. I'm Rifat Mannan in California. So today we have a very special session on pathCast, and we are very excited today because we will be uh, joining with none other than Dr. Nat Pernick, who needs no introduction to the pathologists across the world. And as we all know, he is the founder of Pathology Outlines, and which is, undoubtedly one of the most visited websites for pathology learning across the world. And today we are with Dr. Nat Pernick, who has founded Pathology Outlines, and definitely he has transform pathology learning across the world. And be it a resident who is signing out cases or previewing cases, or who is at a consensus conference, or somebody is giving a slide seminar, or a pathologist signing out cases, the first resource that we look up an entity is always Pathology Outlines. I myself am a big fan of Pathology Outlines, and I have been using it for a long time. And I'm lucky to have contributed several topics into Pathology Outlines as well. And today will be a little different pathcast lecture, which is not a lecture as such, but we will talk with Dr. Nat Pernick, and he will share with us and in a conversation how it all started. And as you all know, Dr. Nat Pernick is a board certified APCP pathologist. And maybe many of you do not know that he also has a law degree, and he practiced law as well. So, and he also is a professional computer programmer. And in fact, today I'm lucky to share that Pathology Outlines has already reached 25th year, and it is a great time to have Dr. Pernick with us since 2001. So in 25 years, Pathology Outlines has contributed several thousand topics, and Dr. Pernick will know more about it. And a lot of authors have contributed to this wonderful online platform. Thank you, Dr. Pernick, for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rafat, for having me. I appreciate it.
Uh, as you know that you have worn many hats. You are not just a pathologist, and you have a law degree. You practiced law as well, and you also have a computer programming background. So how everything together has contributed into having starting Pathology Outlines way back in 2001, and how it has helped in evolution of Pathology Outlines. What are your thoughts on it, Nat?
Well, I did not have a great plan. I kind of did things as I went along. Um, I was I started in computers in high school. This is in the early 70s. We had uh, a I forgot what you call it, a teletype machine. That's what people had back then. And uh, and I learned how to use it, and I was kind of a teacher for other people. And then I did programming at Wayne State. Um, and I thought I was going to go end up in computers. When I went to college at Wayne State, I was pre-med. Um, and I thought I was going to go into something in computers and medicine. I didn't know what it would be, but that's what I thought my future would be because I love computers and I wanted to go into medicine. I was a math major too. And when I was in med school, I realized quite at the end that there really was no field in computers and medicine. There were people who did it, but they did it kind of as an aside. They were an internist and then they did some image analysis, or they were a radiologist and they studied things. So today we've got informatics, but that didn't seem to exist back then. I graduated from med school in '83, so I didn't know quite what to do. My father was in politics. I thought, well, I'll go to law school. And I had been told that within a couple of years, this new field of computers and medicine would emerge. Uh, it didn't really by the time I graduated. So then I just started to practice law. I really didn't know exactly what else to do. So as I said, there wasn't really a plan. It was kind of each step along the way. And then after practicing law for a while, I realized, well, I don't really want to do this. Um, and so I went back into medicine. I went into pathology. And during my pathology residency, which was at Wayne State, there I got the idea for an online textbook. And that's that. So it wasn't all planned out, but I just kind of used everything, all my experiences along the way.
Right. No, that's great. And like you started with this unique way, and I think I heard somewhere you were saying that there was a textbook at that time which was called Outlines in Pathology. So, and in some way, like it has some influence in you as well. Do you want to share something on that?
Sure. So when we were residents, we had an unknown conference, and most of the time our chair was Dr. David Grinion, who was a great GU pathologist who unfortunately passed away several years ago. And I was in this program for 5 years, and so we would take notes on our laptops, which were kind of primitive back then, because I think the unknown conferences are probably the same everywhere. And we used as a reference the book by John Sinnard, who was at Yale, called Outlines in Pathology, which was just text, no references, no images. And so we would use that, and it was a great book. It was a soft-covered book, and we would tape in updates because he wasn't updating his book, and and then we would type. I'd type on my own computer, on my own laptop, some additions too. Because after a while, you get the same cases over and over again, so you don't want to have to redo it. We had a lot of kidney tumor cases because that was Dr. Grinion's interest. And at some point, towards the end of my residency, I thought, well, somebody should put this online. So I called Dr. Sinnard or emailed him. I said, well, are you going to update this? Because it's a great reference. He said, well, no, the publisher's not interested, something like that. And I thought, well, I love computers. I had not been online myself. I'd not done a website, but I figured I could probably figure out how to do it. And it's really towards the end of the residency or the beginning of when I did a residency fellowship. So towards the end, I think I started thinking about it. I had a friend who did set up websites and he helped me get it going. But so it really was based on the concept of Dr. Sinnard, but we wanted references, we wanted it to be updated, we wanted images, we wanted to be more extensive than his. And his was a great book, but it was, it was 200 pages or something, and there's a lot more knowledge than that.
Right, right. No, this is amazing how you started with that idea. And then do you think that there were some early hurdles because I mean, you are a practicing pathologist yourself, and then you wanted to start with this free online education resource that can be accessed by everybody all over the world. So what were some early hurdles you can think of?
Well, I don't think I had that many. So what I've done, I've had many businesses, and what I've done whenever I started something is I kept doing whatever I was doing before.
Mhm.
A lot of people say, no, I'm going to put 100% into it. They cut off everything, which means they're making no money. That's what a lot of people do. And the problem is, well, first, we have to live on something. And second, the business I found for pathology outlines, we really didn't make money for 5 years. So so I kept my law practice, which was making money. I had been doing that. I did pathology work, which was income for me. So that even though pathology outlines made no money, I didn't care because
Yeah.
I could still pay the bills. But if I so that's a big problem for a lot of people, but the way I did it, it wasn't a problem. The big issue, I think, is that it's just overwhelming the amount of knowledge. I started with the thyroid chapter and I put together I had the fascicles and I had my notes and I had the back then use cap. When you went to use cap, they used to give you out handouts, and we
Right.
all went around and we collected them. And I had all of that, and I had the things that I had typed when we had our unknown conferences, and I just kind of tried to put it all together in a logical way. So um, if I had a great plan, that might have been a problem because I would have thought, oh my gosh, this is just too much. I couldn't possibly do it. But I didn't, I just thought, well, I'm going to start with the thyroid. And I went through all the, started with the developmental disorders and then the inflammatory and benign, malignant, then the carcinomas, then the sarcomas and so on. And so I just did it in a very orderly way. Um, you can actually see the initial website if you go to a site called the Internet Archive. It has old versions,
Mhm.
and they were pretty short, pretty crude. I mean, it was accurate, I think, but um, so that was one thing. And another hurdle I didn't realize at the time was I didn't really have a process. You really want to have a template, and you
Right.
want to have consistency. And I tried to be consistent in my own mind, but I didn't have any structure. So
Right.
that was a problem. But I didn't really realize it until later, until people said, "Hey, you should have structure." Another problem was there was no peer review.
Hmm. Right.
Uh, another problem was I'm not an expert. I'm an APC, I'm a boarded pathologist, but I'm not at one of the big universities doing research. I did a little research, but
Hmm.
uh, so, but my thinking was I wanted to do it. I would use it. Maybe nobody else would use it. I don't know. But I'd start and I'd keep going. And when I came up with obstacles, I just figure out a way to get over them.
I know that's great to know. Actually, I heard that thyroid was the first chapter that you wrote, and I was trying yesterday to see the thyroid lecture, the thyroid chapter on pathology outlines. There are so many topics inside thyroid itself, and I can imagine that it has evolved so much. And you are talking about the net structure that now that you have a great structure which is uniform across so many different topics across different chapters and specialties. Uh, Now that you do not practice, like clinical pathology, and then you have been so much involved with pathology outlines, do you miss signing out cases as a pathologist?
Well, I kind of do, but one of the things I realized, I mean, at some point I was signing out cases and doing the website, and at some point it kind of became difficult
Hmm.
because when you're in the hospital, it's it's kind of go 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 while
Right.
you're there. It's hard to interrupt, um, and um, and I could cut back on the signing out cases, but I realized you have to see a certain amount of cases or else you lose your touch. So for example, prostate biopsies, you don't want to look at them every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
Because uh, there might just be a couple malignant cells and you got to find them. And if
Right.
you're not looking regularly, you're not going to find them. So at some point, I realized I really couldn't do both as much as I might like to
Uh-huh.
because the website was growing. I had a growing number of staff. I had to supervise them. Um, I also, this is my problem. I was not very good at delegating. So a lot of stuff, for many years, anything that went on the website, I put on the website. Um, so I had to be by the computer.
Right.
And so that takes a lot of time. And um, so so I do miss signing out, and I look at cases that come in
Hmm.
and um, and I will um, give kind of think to myself what would I call it? And we have unknown cases ourselves. We have an image quiz and case of the month, and I look at them, but but I recognize I'm not qualified anymore to sign out cases just because I don't see it that often. And I don't, and even though I oversee the textbook, it's not the same as struggling to figure out what a case is. I look at it, if I don't know, I don't know, but I don't have to talk to other experts and look up things. So
Yeah, no, right, right. Because that's good to know for anybody, because like it is very hard to keep pace with clinical practice as well as to
that's right.
run a business entity on its own. So it's you cannot do justice to both at the same time, because many of us who want to do different things. So I mean, we have to juggle between different tasks at hand, so it can be really very challenging. So it's good to know what your thoughts about it. And now, like, I mean, coming to another topic, because pathology outlines over the last 25 years have stayed open access to the users. And that is amazing. And then I'm sure that all pathologists around the world, they really acknowledge it, that, you know, like at the click of a button, they get their information. There is no registration required. It is very easy to use. And especially people, our colleagues who are listening today or maybe listening to your talk at another time, they may be from so many different parts of the world where they do not have a lot of information or resources available to them. And you have actually, through Pathology Outlines, have done a great deal of service to all our colleagues all over the world by keeping the content open access to all of us. And so what is your philosophy about open access medical education in pathology? And myself also, like, you know, I mean, we started pathCast 10 years ago when we are residents. So we do have the lectures, like, you know, every fortnight, and we keep them open access. So I kind of feel you and share your thoughts. So what do you think about the role of open access education and how you keep it open access for all of us?
Well, that was when I started, that was a key thing, that it'd be free, easy to use, and that you can get information fast. I mean, I wrote papers, and it just troubled me that, you know, you'd look up a paper and you'd see the abstract and you couldn't get it. And you
Right.
had to pay 20, $30. And you know, of course, you know, we could afford it if you really wanted to, but I'm sure I like many people, you know, I'm looking up 50, 100 articles a week. I can't pay $30 times 50 every week, you know. So it just seemed crazy to me. And I'm happy that the Howard Hughes Institute and, you know, and NIH started to say, hey, wait a minute, if we're funding you, you have to make your paper open access. So they're not all open access, but there's a lot more today. But that's a basic foundation, is we want it to be free, non-registration. The only challenge today, there's two challenges. It's really one is from the bots, which go and they search the sites, and they can slow down the website. And we've had this problem with our directory where I think they're trying to create their own version of it. They're trying to read all the data from it. And if it slows it down so they can't use it, that's a problem. The other thing is we don't want you know, AI to put us out of business, where
Right.
somebody basically steals our information. And that has become, it's an issue in small ways, and we haven't figured out the answer to it. But it's possible that the directory that we have, it will be free, but we may have it where you have to log in just to
Right.
keep the bots out. The textbook, I hope that never is the case. We still want to keep it free. We don't want to charge people, but right now I'm happy that, you know, for 24 plus years we've kept it free. But if people have ideas on how we can better deal with AI and some of these issues, I'm happy. Just email me, nat@pathologyoutlines.com. We also get attacked, and we've had people. We have blocked use from some countries,
Right.
unfortunately, don't like it because we've gotten attacks that basically make the website unusable for periods of time. So we have to block users from those countries. These are, we've had, I think I could say China and Vietnam are two of the countries. And
Right.
sometimes it gets better. We have nothing against the pathologists in China or Vietnam or the people in those countries, but our IT people, and we've gone to different people, they've said, hey, you're getting so many attacks. We can't just block one IP address. So those are actually some of the challenges that we face today, but we definitely want to keep it free. For what it's worth, I'm getting older, and at one point I thought, well, I can't do this forever. What should I do? So I investigated selling it, and I talked to lots of people. And the first thing they said is, "Oh, we're going to start charging people." And I
Right.
said, and I thought, oh my gosh, you destroy the website. And I'm not. So the plan is, at this point, I'm not selling it. I'm going to give it to my kids. we have a pretty good plan. We're still working on it, but so we're not going to sell it. But like I said, that's really the philosophy, is that it should be free. It's hard to be a doctor, um, but getting the knowledge you need shouldn't be hard. So looking at the slide and determining the diagnosis, that's always going to require training
Yeah.
and judgment. But looking up to say, well, what exactly, is this entity, or and what's in the differential diagnosis? That shouldn't be hard. We shouldn't make it a game to get the information, and we shouldn't charge people. I mean, we can do it. We can make the information free and we of course have ads. And so it seems to me the other publishers can do the same thing. And a lot of them do. They just have ads too, and they can make money from that. So
Yeah,
that's
that is one thing that we all have wondered, and then it's cute because I have talked to a lot of pathology friends from different parts of the world. They are really, really appreciative that the content and pathology outlines is so easy to access and it is open access. But as you have mentioned, and we know that you have a business enterprise now. So what is your model, that how do you run your business enterprise? Because you have a lot of employees with you, and then you have a lot of expenses. Was it ever tempting for you to make it subscription based? But how do you run this model?
well, I was never going to make it subscription based
Mm-hmm.
because I'm very idealistic, maybe crazy, I don't know, but I was never going to charge because this is really a idealistic activity. So it was always going to be free. I would tell people, as long as I'm alive, it's going to be free. After I die, I can't make any promises, but um, you know, so we run it kind of like Google. Google has
Right.
the search and the maps. It's all free, and they sell ads.
Right.
So that was what we did. And the first ads we got were for job ads. So I think, but now we have by far the number one place where pathologists go to look for jobs. So we charge, I think it's basically, I don't do it anymore, but I think it's about $1,000 an ad. There's some discounts, I guess, but we have a lot of ads. So that was the big thing to pay for it. And then we have banners from a lot of companies
Right.
that want to reach pathologists. If you want to reach a pathologist to sell them to tell them about your antibodies or your books or whatever, well, you could go to UseCap. It's a great show, but you got 3 days on the exhibit floor, and
Right.
then they're gone.
They're gone.
You could get a journal article. Maybe they read it, maybe they don't. They get it, but the pathologists are on our site every day. So it really is a good model. I used to do the selling at first. Now we've got a sales team.
Right.
We have altogether, we've got 26 people
Wow.
working for us. We're hiring another one. I mean, it's gotten pretty sophisticated. Um, a lot of this stuff. It used to be that people did stuff that I was doing, but now it's way beyond anything that I could do. We deal with the pharma companies for like companion diagnostic tests.
Mm-hmm.
And the pharma companies are very difficult to deal with. We appreciate them, but they're not simple to, it's very complicated. They have marketing agencies. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of contracts. So some things are very difficult. And even the textbook, it's very difficult. When it used to be, I wrote it and that was it. But now the author sends in something and we have people check it just to make sure they're following our template. And then we have all these different people who are checking the content. We have regular editors and format editors and medical copy editors, and then we have peer review. So it's quite a sophisticated process.
Right. But talking about templates, so I mean, how do you keep it uniform across different topics? Because for example, sometimes some topics are hard to put in a content. I can give you an example. Like for example, there is a topic on liver biopsy interpretation.
Sure.
So that's a broad topic, which is hard to put it into a template. But like I mean, but it's and also I heard you talked about the images, like, I mean, how you have switched from using online image resources to now that you request the authors to have their own images. And you have a great network now, and I believe that you have several thousand topics that are there, right? Like, I mean, can you give us some idea about the numbers, the statistics, if you have them in mind, if you don't mind, how is
Yeah,
the whole content about?
I think we have 4,600 topics.
Wow.
Now, when I wrote it, we had more actually,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought that every entity and every site should have its own content.
Right.
So if you had a hemangioma of the thyroid,
Uh-huh.
could write about it. So we'd have hemangioma 50 times, but
Right.
it's really pretty silly because it's the same entity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it might be that some things deserve to be like a CNS hemangioparasitoma is not the same as a soft tissue. So sometimes you want to keep it separate. It's a judgment call, but so we've cut back on some of those soft tissue tumors, hematologic tumors that are really duplicative. And sometimes it's the same entity. Maybe it's in the colon, it's in the small intestine, but it's the same thing. Um, I don't know the latest count of images. I mean, at one point we had 30, 40,000. So,
Mm-hmm.
and right now we require authors, we tell them 6 micro images.
Right.
They
Right.
almost all do it. Now, some of them send 30. Every
Uh-huh.
once in a while, some send 3 or 4, and we
Right.
push them. Sometimes it's a rare entity.
Yeah.
Uh, and now one of the things we're doing is sometimes they'll send us the image, um, and it might be like 2 MB, which is pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't need that. So we used to shrink them. But what we found is that people say, well, we like the big ones too. So we give them the option. If you go in the legend,
Right.
newer topics, it will say, click here for bigger image. Because
Okay.
people are analyzing it, they're using it for, research projects, whatever it is. So
Right.
so that's kind of what we're doing with the textbook. I forgot what you asked. You had another question in
Oh
there.
no, like, because earlier I remember that you used to allow authors to have online images, and you switched to,
Right.
I mean,
That's right.
individual images. There is a reason I heard you sharing earlier.
Well, well, the reason was that we used to have links.
Yeah.
The links went bad.
Right.
Um, so I remember I put it used to be that AJSP, American Journal of Surgical Pathology, they'd have some free issues.
Right.
And of course, it's a great journal, and they had great images. So we would link to their images. And I remember we had a couple thousand links.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we gave them credit and all that. Um, and we didn't copy the big images. We would put in a thumbnail and we linked to their
Right.
image. And then all the links went bad. And I remember once I went through and I relinked, and they changed their server. I did them all 1,000 new links, which of course takes a
That's
tremendous amount.
crazy.
And then they did it again.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, I can't. And this Archives of Pathology, which is
Right.
what they did the same thing. They
Mm-hmm.
had it, we used them. And I remember they said, oh, you're our number one referrer.
Uh-huh.
But then they changed the links. So we said, we just can't do this anymore. It's just, so we tell people, we do allow links for, if they don't have their own, for gross images, but for
Right.
micro, we want the authors to have it. And what we say to the authors is, look, if you're writing about an entity, you should have your own micro images. If you've never seen it, if you've never taken a picture, how can you be an expert on it?
Right.
So that's why we switched. So we still have some, now we have some topics where some older topics that don't have our images on our website. So if they're on our server, they're never going to go bad. Um, about half of the topics are up to date, which means
Right.
they updated recently. And those tend to be the ones that are the most frequently visited, or the ones where our editors think they're the most important. Now we're working on the rest, but um, so that's a challenge too. Is we need more people to write, and people have to write, and you talked about the templates.
Right.
So we have a template which works for a good surgical pathology tumor. That
Mm-hmm.
um, But if it's something like biopsy interpretation or we have a very general template, and some of those sometimes those are problems. My concern is not that people don't follow a template, because you're right, sometimes there is no template that makes sense. You have to kind of make it up. But sometimes it's just it doesn't seem, at least to our editors, that it's that coherent.
Right.
And problem, we don't want anyone writing anything that's going to be rejected. But sometimes it doesn't, it's not often, but sometimes it happens. And sometimes it's on these topics that are very that don't fit a template. And usually what we've said now is we'd like those to be written not by new authors, but by authors who've been around and kind of know what our site is about. Because otherwise it's just too difficult for them.
No, but actually, I feel that templates are really great. And in pathology, we are actually used to templates in different
Right,
ways. Like we use templates in reporting, we use templates in grossing, but sometimes like it is so hard to skim important information from a big
right.
paragraph. And that way, the unique style that pathology outlines have introduced 25 years back, I would say that all credit to you. And it is so easy to read. And that is the beauty of your content, that all users love it, that every information is there. If there are immunostains, what are the positive stains, what are the negative stains, it's there in front of us. So, I mean, it really adds value. And in fact, as you say, that maybe some contents are difficult to put it into the particular template, but still it encourages the writer to be innovative, to come out with ways like how to keep it within the template. I think it's great. And like talking about your team and about let me see that there are a lot of actually viewers who have joined from different parts of the world, and they are saying thanks to you. Let me read to you. One of our viewers who has joined from Afghanistan, and then who is saying thank you. There is somebody who joined from Cambodia who is again complimenting you. Someone has joined from Romania. So you can see that our colleagues from different parts of the world, they appreciate the contribution of pathology outlines to their learning. And coming to the structure of pathology outlines, like how do you maintain that? I know that how do you maintain the accuracy of contents? What is your team? How do you select the authors? And what is your process? Like, can you tell something for our viewers so that they know what's going on behind the scene?
Well, we have about so if somebody wants to write, we have we didn't used to, but now we have qualifications. And if you go to our author page, we list it. Basically, you have to be a practicing
Right.
pathologist. I guess you could, for the most part, you have to have published in your area, in your subspecialty. And the reason is because if you haven't really written before, we can't teach you to be a writer. And if you've published, you know how it works, all the rules, and our rules they're not that different from most journals. I mean, a little bit, but so you have to have published. If you're a resident or fellow, or we've had med students who write, that's okay, but somebody on your team has to meet the qualification. And we don't really care who does what. I mean, we're not going to know. So that's the first thing is, and we want to see everyone's CV, and then we review that. And then we give people a template. People, you have to. You could tell us what you like to write on, but we have 4,600 topics. We have to approve it, right?
Yeah,
Because maybe it's already up to date. Maybe somebody's already writing on it.
true.
If you have a new idea, that's fine, but we have to send it to our editorial board. They have to approve it. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they say, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." Sometimes they say, "You know what? It's really not important to be its own separate topic. It's like a variant. It's a rare variant of this, and it doesn't need to have its own big topic on it because every big topic, it takes our staff a lot of time. It takes everyone a lot of time to review it. So it really should be important. Um, so, but the process is that everything is reviewed many, many, many times. As I said, we have our staff who are not pathologists or not medical, they'll review for grammar and formatting
Right.
and doesn't meet the template. Then we have two medical copy editors
Hmm.
who want to make sure that it makes sense, that the references are correct. And then we have an editorial board and a board of reviewers. We have right now, I think there's about 80 people. So we have an editor-in-chief, we have a dozen, I think, deputy editors, I don't know, 50 other editors on our editorial board, maybe 20 people on our board of reviewers. So they will all check. Well, I mean, not all of them, but usually two of them will check each topic and make sure that it seems accurate. They will find, sometimes they'll look at, doesn't happen often, but they'll look at it and they'll say, gee, this is just not right. It's just not accurate. I mean, I feel bad because we don't really want to reject anybody,
Right.
but and sometimes, and this is hard to believe, but there are people who are leaders in the field, and everyone knows them. Obviously, I'm not going to mention anybody. And the topic comes back from the editors. It's not very good. I think what happens is they get a resident to write it, and they
Right.
don't oversee it.
Oversee it, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a resident, you want to make sure that somebody really is looking at it, because you don't want your time you don't want we don't want to reject it, but you don't want to reject it either. And we can't give you that many times because I mean, we sometimes have editors who look at stuff. It doesn't happen a lot, and they are they're just exasperated. They're pulling out their hair, and there's and we say, look, no, we don't want you to have to write. These are busy people, right? So they should be finding, looking to find maybe minor things, but if in major ways it's not good, we don't want it. So if you want to write for us, that's great, but you really have to be serious. And this is not something that you can pop out in half an hour or in half a day. You've got to and you're going to get comments from our editorial board, and you got to address those comments. I should also say something about AI. Some people might use AI to write it.
Right.
AI is okay, I suppose, if you want to draft something, but it's not really good for a final product. And we know, you can see it's not that good. And
Right.
we know, and it's many of you know, it's often wrong. It makes up references. It draws conclusions that are not actually stated in the articles.
Right.
Now, they're logically correct, but the author didn't say it. So, you can't really say, well, that this tumor arises from this process. It does, but there's no reference. You
Right.
can't use ChatGPT as a reference. So you got to be and we've turned people away because they've used AI and they haven't checked it.
True.
And then the last thing I mentioned for people writing, it doesn't come up too often, but you can't plagiarize. And if you don't know what plagiarism is, you should look at, you can look at an article and take the ideas, but you can't cut and paste. That violates copyright. It's illegal. Could get you in trouble, and we check for that. And if we find somebody's plagiarized, we're tempted to say, we just don't want to use this author anymore. It's just not, it's not worth the risk to us. I mean, they might be a great person, but if you're writing, you gotta do things the right way. So.
No, you mentioned two really great points. One is about AI. I was about to ask you because I mean, ChatGPT and so many other chatbots are becoming so prevalent, and it becomes so easy for someone to just put things there and then get it all in a bullet point. So, but as you really mentioned very rightly, that one has to check the contents, one has to check the correctness of the reference. It just because it hallucinates also all the time. And as you rightly mentioned, that for style it is great. You can use it for the style purpose, that is fine, but not for the content. You have to exactly verify the content and properly, because otherwise it is so easy to find out that this is not your original content. And second point that you mentioned is about plagiarism. I think again that viewers who are watching, that is such an important thing that you have mentioned, that our new authors should keep it in mind, that about plagiarism, that that's very important that you mentioned. And you said that you have a great team, like what I hear from you, that you have 4,600 topics, and that is also after curtailing a lot other topics that you decided that they are redundant, right? And then you have a lot of authors. I believe that more than 300 or so, right? You have a group of peer reviewers, you have an editorial board, you have a big team. And I must say that as a contributor, I want to give a big shout out to Erin and Margaret, your author coordinators. They do a great job. They do a great job, and they are very particular about that the author should follow the template and should follow all the guidelines that are there. Sometimes it is annoying for the author, but yeah, it's really important that how you maintain the structure and everything. And your team really does a great job. I must say, what is my experience so far?
Right. And we also want to make sure that people they finish it. Because so we used to not have follow-up, and now we have pretty good follow-up, and so that if you say you're going to do something, we give people limits, and then we do follow it up. And initially, so I was a softie, and I didn't push people very hard when it was me. And we had people say, "Oh, I want to write about this this group of diseases, and I want to write about all six of them in this category." I don't know what it could be. I'm making this up, but let's say they say I want to write about all the neuroendocrine lung tumors. That wasn't the example, but I don't want to give the example because the person who I'm referring to might be listening. So let's say neuroendocrine lung tumors, and 2 years later they hadn't written anything. And other people had asked, they said, "Oh, I want to write about it." I said, "Oh, well, we've already reserved it." So we don't do that anymore. So now if you reserve it, you got to write it. Otherwise, we take it away.
And they're good at it. Your team is very good at it. I have faced it myself.
And I don't like it. I don't like to, well, I couldn't do it. But my staff can do it. Erin and Margaret can do it, and in a very nice way. But, the textbook's got to go forward. And if you can't, I understand, one of the things that a lot of residents and fellows have trouble with is they take on more than they can do. And I did it too, but at some point you got to say, you know what, it's too much. I can't do it. You got to learn to say no. Or maybe when I get something done, then I can add to the list. But you can't do everything because I think it adds a lot of stress, and it gets people disappointed, and it harms your reputation if you sign up for something and you don't do it.
Yeah.
So that's a hard thing to learn, but so.
Yeah,
But
no, thank you. Actually, there is one question from one of our viewers who joined from Afghanistan. So he is Mustafa Haidari. So his question is that, can you please ask the terms for writing topics? And I think you mentioned them already. Maybe I want to add another question on his behalf and for any of the new authors, that if somebody new who wants to write for Pathology Outlines, how do they go about it? What should they do?
well, they can send us an email, send us their CV. I forgot the email. I should have it. I think it's authors@pathologyoutlines.com. Say, "I'm so and so. I would like to write about this. My CV is attached." If you are not a staff, you're going to need a staff to write with you, so you should find them. Um, we do have some, but not a lot, of faculty that are willing to work with a resident, even if they don't know them. So you could ask if there's anybody who could work with you. But you've still got to expect that you're going to do most of the work, and you've got to respond. But it should be something, you should have your own you got to have your own pictures.
Yeah.
Unless, if it's something that typically would require macro images, and you really should have some expertise in it. And you got to be willing to do the work. As I said, it's great to have your name on these topics. We found people say, "Oh yeah, when I got a job interview, people asked me about it." But you got to do the work, and it is hard work. We tell people 10, 15 hours if you've written something about it. So if you've done an abstract for a conference, that's a good thing to write about because you've already done a lot of the work. You've got the pictures. But something that you've never seen that you think, "Oh, that might be interesting," that might not be a good thing. Wait till you've seen it or done a little project on it.
Oh, that's a good point. Actually, you have already touched that. And our colleague from Afghanistan has this follow-up question or comment that I will read it for you. That actually I have two topics in pathology outline before. In that time, it was necessary to be with a professor in that field for writing. Is it possible for someone who has published topics to have new ones without the assistance of professor? You already answered that,
But
right?
you have to, well, we do have that happens. I mean, if you've become a staff, then you might not need a staff person. It depends on how many you have published. I mean, you could send us an updated CV and we could see. I mean, that does happen where we have people, they work for us as residents, then they wrote for us as staff, now they're editors.
Right.
So that's certainly possible.
Right. No,
I
I
would also
think,
say that if any of your visitors have, if they have ideas on things that we could do better, um, I mean, nobody likes to get criticism, but on the other hand, if there's something wrong, we want you to tell us. So people every once in a while they'll say, "Oh, we do find even with our process, there are some typos that get
right.
through." And we look at them usually within a day. If it has to go out to an editor, it might take a little longer, but we take them very seriously and we'll fix them. And we appreciate that. So, and if you have a topic that we just had somebody who wrote, "Oh, I think this is a new entity. I think you should write something about it." So we check with the editors or somebody said, "I would like to write about it." And so we check and then we go forward. So we try to be very receptive um, on things. I mean, sometimes people say things like, "Oh, I like your site, but I just wish you would get rid of all the ads." I mean, we've had that. Well, yeah, well, I've got 26 staff. I have
Right.
to pay them. I've got editors, I pay them. I pay our IT company. I pay, my lawyer and my CPA, and my bookkeeper, so um but but we have made changes to the ads. It used to be we got rid of some of the obnoxious ads. We've cut back on some, we don't want the ads to take away from the experience. So if you have ideas, let us know. I'm not offended by whatever suggestions you have.
Can we share your email in on
Sure.
Facebook and YouTube, please?
Yeah, Nat at pathologyoutlines.com. That goes directly to me. I answer all my emails except for people who are selling me stuff. Uh,
Okay.
or every once in a while I get, "Oh, I'm lonely. I'd like to talk to you." I don't think so those emails. But in general, if it's a pathology related question, I'm happy to answer it.
Right. Now, let me tell you one thing, Nat, is that as a user for such a long time, I can assert that you are the real OZ. You are the OZ of online education, and you have set the trend. And I, as a user, I can hardly see who is number two. I don't see a number two for online content that like pathology outlines. So how do you maintain the competition? What do you think about it? That have you felt any competition from others, or like have you thought something about it, or how do you stay always ahead? I would sometimes feel that pathology outlines is the Amazon for online pathology education. What are your thoughts about being the real OZ?
Well, there's certainly people, everyone wants job ads, and we've had other companies that try to post job ads. You can make money on job ads. We charge $1,000, I think I said. Well, it doesn't cost $1,000 to post a job ad, but so that's where we make our money. So they want to do it too, but it's the rest of the site that costs a lot of money.
Mhm.
I estimated maybe we put $25 million into the site. Uh,
Wow.
it's hard to, and we've built it up. At this point, it's hard, nobody really could build it up. I mean, I built it up. I did it because nobody else was doing it, and I thought it needed to be done. And I wondered, well, why didn't CAP do it? Why didn't US CAP
Mhm.
do it? I don't know why they didn't do it, but they didn't. So I don't think anybody now. People a long time ago, people would do like somebody did a chapter on liver,
Right.
and well, that's pretty good. The problem is they don't maintain it. Um, they lose interest because they want to move on. And this it's it's a lot of work. You have to do things that are boring, like link checking.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do it, and fixing
Right.
the bad links. But that's what you got to do. and responding to comments and updating topics that are already written. Um, so I'm not too worried. We go to the big conferences, we
Hmm.
see what other people are doing. Um, uh, as I said, we try to be responsive. Um, Another thing that we're different is we're really, there's a lot of businesses. We didn't start, we're a business, but we're really kind of a hybrid. We're really like, because we're half charity, we give it away. And our goal is not to make the most money possible. Now, there's some journals, they exist to make money. I
Hmm.
mean, they want to provide a service, but everything is geared to the advertiser. I've told our advertisers, some of them this. I said, they'll say, well, we want to do this. And I said, well, we're not going to do that because I know you would like it, but the pathologists would not like it.
Right.
Like they want our emails of our pathologists. We said, well, we're not going to give it to them. They
Right.
say, well, we want it.
Hmm.
I said, you know what? I don't want to even give it to my mother. I tell pathologists, if you give us your email, we will not give it to anybody. We will not. So we, the priority is helping pathologists. Now we have to pay the bills, but we're not making priority pathologist number two. So that's a big advantage we have. Everyone else, it seems like, wants to make money first. For us, as I said, I didn't make money for 4 or 5 years. And well, it's a little embarrassing. I didn't really care because I was an idealist. Now, my wife said, "Hmm, you spent a lot of time on this. Are you making any money?" I said, "No." And she said, and of course she was right. But so then we started to focus more on promoting sales. But that's that's another advantage we have. We obviously, I said, we have to pay the bills. A lot of things we do don't make money. The directory doesn't make any money. We don't sell
Right.
anything. Um, the textbook by itself, we don't sell anything. We don't make any money on it, but we make it on the ads. But so that's an advantage that we have. But we do go to the shows and we do listen to people. So as I said, if you have ideas, um, we listen to the ideas. People say, "Oh, you should do this." And I've had it happen several times. So I said, well, that's a good idea. I just don't know how we could do it. And then sometimes, like a year or two later, I'll say, oh, you know what? Now I know how we could do that. And then we do it. So if you have something, if it makes sense, um, if it's something that will help pathologists do a better job. Um, Now, the one thing that we're not crazy about is it's already being done, but it's being done by somebody who charges for it. So you're familiar with immunoquery, which is like a
Yeah.
data for
Right.
immune things. And there's people who say and it's very expensive to do that. They have a lot, to get to process all the abstracts and the
Right.
articles. I'm sure it's a lot of money. People say, well, we want you to do it, but just don't charge us. Well, that's not what I mean, we provide information our own way. It's not the same, but so we're not really looking to, we don't want to compete with people. If somebody else is doing it and they're doing a good job, we don't really need to do that. Let them do it.
Right.
So
That's a great thought. That's very insightful. How to just be persistent with what you are doing, and then keep your own philosophy intact. I think that's something that I could learn from what you are saying, and I would say that our colleagues will also echo that sentiment. I have one question for you.
follow on. There's something that's called mission creep. You start
Mhm.
off, you want to do something, and then you see businesses do this. They say, oh, then they buy another business, and eventually they kind of lose their focus on what they really were about. And I've heard a lot of people who've told me stories about it. So we're very careful. This is what we're focused on. We kind of want to stay on this because it's also an overwhelming job. And if we're not focused, we're not going to do that good at it. But anyway,
Right.
sorry.
Oh yeah, no, no. My question is I mean, there has been I mean, pathology outlines over the last 25 years have seen a lot of evolution. You have said it yourself that you started doing it yourself. You would do the peer review yourself. There was no reference initially, and then it has moved so much. I mean, even from the last few minutes, we could hear that how it has changed. So I am curious to know, what is the future of pathology outlines? What is next in your mind? Like, for example, things are changing fast. You already mentioned about AI and ChatGPT and things like that. And then our audience is also changing, keeping in terms with the change in technology. Like people are moving into more from visual to audio, like, more from reading to audio and visual mode. And there are a lot of social media components are coming up. Like, I mean, do you have anything in mind for the future? And are you thinking of a pathology outlines app maybe in the future? What are your thoughts moving forward?
Well, we are working on, and I think it's almost done, but I guess until it's done, I don't know, of a like a path out chat um, that uses our content to answer questions like Chat
Oh,
GPT.
nice.
So we will let you know, hopefully by the end of the year. Um, we we have no objection to authors doing videos like how do you gross a pancreas or something
Right,
like that. We've just never gotten anybody to do it, but we'd be happy to add it. We
right,
do add links to some of them if they're already existing. Um, we're open to those ideas, but some of it we can't do it. We're not supplying the content of the textbook. So if other people want to do it, then we're open to it. Um, and we really, we want to be responsive to other people and to their ideas, and we just kind of listen to what other people say. We go to conferences, hear the ideas, and try and incorporate them, and then hope that people will contribute to do this. I mean, I think it makes sense, but I can't. I mean, we have people where we had somebody who did 3D models of human tissue.
right.
And we saw them at a conference in Europe, and they sent us some pictures. We added it to our website. That could be some next big thing,
Hmm.
but they've sent us one or two. Maybe, I don't know how useful it is. It sounded better in concept than when I looked at the picture. But so we're, like I said, we go to the conference, we look and see some things. Um, one of the things, for example, it seems like we have images of almost every tumor. So
Right.
could that data be used to help expand the knowledge base to figure out, more, understand more about how tumors arise? I don't know, maybe it's like that. So we're interested in working people on different research projects too. So if you've got an idea, let us know. Um,
Right.
uh, but so we have some of our own ideas. As far as an app, we could have an app like for the homepage. The website's so big and we update it every day.
True.
We don't want people, people couldn't, as a practical matter, download the updates. But we could have a new homepage. We
Hmm.
have a different homepage now. But if you have ideas for something, then let us know. We've thought about an app. We might do it. I'm just not sure. What the advantages would be. So if, like I said, if somebody has a thought on this, or let us know, and we will think about it and get back to you.
Yeah, for our viewers, as Dr. Pernick has mentioned, that if you have any ideas in your mind, you can reach out to Dr. Pernick, and his email is nat@pathologyoutlines.com, and he responds very promptly. And that is one of the great thing that Dr. Pernick has among many, that he will respond to you very quickly. Thank you so much for that. So yeah, you can please reach out to him if you have any ideas about what you want to see in pathology outlines. But as a user, I can see that the current format is very user friendly. It's very easy to use. There is no registration. There is no logging in required. Whatever somebody is looking for, they just have to go to the search bar, and one can get it. And in fact, if somebody asks for a topic and searches it on Google, the first few, like searches that already mention pathology outlines. That is the impact I believe that pathology outlines have developed over the years, and which is already really good. And I'm sure that in future, pathology outlines will only grow from strength to strength. And myself, like, I'm a firm believer in online or open access education. I'm from India, so I know the challenges in countries and places like, where resources are limited. And in those situations, I believe that online resources like Pathology Outlines. And in fact, I feel our pathCast lectures, we have about more than 280 lectures in last 10 years on so many different topics. I believe that these contents are very useful for our colleagues across the world. And what do you think about the utility of online uh, contents like pathCast or Pathology Outlines for our viewers or for our colleagues across the world? What do you think about that, Nat?
I think that's great, and that's one of the heartwarming things when I go to the conferences and people come up to me from all over the world and say, I'm from somewhere in, some third world country, and I can't afford these big textbooks, and I can't afford
Yes,
the, but I can, we've got internet, and I can use your site. So that's really one of the great things about it. And we have, this happens all the time. People come up to us, and, as long as they could speak English. We if we've had people who have talked to us about translating, usually into Chinese was the
right.
one, and it's never happened. But if
Uh-huh.
you're interested, we could license it theoretically, to change it. So just let us know. We haven't done it, but we've had, as I said, we've had people interested and then they backed out. So.
Right, right. Now that was actually something I wanted to ask you, that do you have any plan about having pathology outline contents in languages other than English? You already
Oh,
answered that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, something personal, so I recently read that you shared the news about your breast cancer diagnosis, and thank you for being open about it. How has that experience changed your outlook about pathology and then the things that we do? Because as pathologists, our job is always to, diagnose cancers and, I mean, resections, specimens and things like that. Any comments from you?
Um, Well, first, I mean, I've written about it because I think it's important to
Right,
educate everyone about it, and not just about male breast cancer, but a lot of people just don't understand cancer
right,
and really how complicated the process is.
right.
And they'll say, "Well, do you have a good prognosis or a bad prognosis?" And the answer is, "Well, yes."
Mm,
So in my case, well, I have a high-grade tumor, which is typical of most male breast cancers, grade 3. So that's bad prognosis. But good prognosis, it's ER positive, PR positive, HER2 negative, Ki-67 is 15%, which is considered low. I have a low oncotype DX score. So,
right,
but I had one sentinel node, which is positive with extranodal extension. So a lot of people, they just they just say, no, I want to know. I want
right,
one, right? And that's just not the way, as we know, it's not the way it is.
right,
Uh, and then I have follow-up testing, and the follow-up testing, a lot of times, it's ambiguous,
right,
right? There's there's always something. There's always a cyst or a nodule somewhere that's found, and the radiologist says, well, I'm pretty sure that it's benign.
right,
And but the radiologists always say, but follow-up is suggested, right?
right,
That's kind of,
right,
I'm not picking on them, but that's
right,
so um so I think it's good to educate the public. On a personal level, though, it makes me realize, and I did realize, but none of us could live forever. I do want to have a good succession plan so that when I can't do this anymore, actually at this point, I'm no longer the CEO. As of January 1st, I have Rosie is the new CEO. She's been with us many years, maybe 10 years. And we have a very good management team. I oversee everything, but I don't, there's not that much that I do that I have to do it. So, um, I think we always have to think about what's going to happen when we no longer can do stuff. So it just kind of, even though I've got a good prognosis, we all know that nothing, we're not going to live forever. So.
right. No, thanks for sharing that. We really appreciate your perspective, and then that you are trying to educate our colleagues and others, people about cancer in general. That's really heartening to know. And one last thing before we conclude, Nat, that any advice for pathologists, especially the younger generation, like who want to give back to the subject or who wants to build something impactful like you did for pathology outlines? Anything that you want to say?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think I think it's always good to start off by saying, not how am I going to make money,
Right,
but what can I do that's going to be useful to people, that's going to actually help people? And that's what I did, is I didn't think about the money, as I said, for many years. And and that's a lot of work to find something that's
Yeah,
useful, and especially that nobody else is doing,
yeah,
or if somebody's doing that, they're not really doing very well. I didn't really want to compete, but so that takes a lot of work, and I would focus on that, and so and then I'd talk to other people and say, what do they think? Now, if you think it's a really good idea and other people don't, then you could just go anyway, and because they may be wrong. It's a lot of people cannot see the future, and they just can't see something that doesn't exist, and um, so I would say start from that perspective. I think it's also important um, to treat people well. If
right,
you're going to work with people, to not be nasty to people. I mean, treat people well. If you have customers, to treat them well. If you have consultants, to treat them well. And it's not a nasty world. I mean, it is a nasty world, but I don't think you get anywhere positive by doing that. People, um, I benefit because people come up to me because they like our site and they like me and they say, "Oh, you know what? I think you should. This would really be a help to you." But they wouldn't say that if they didn't like me. If I
right,
offended.
right,
So I think you really have to have the right perspective. What can we do to make the world better? Or at least some tiny part of the world better. Um, and the other thing is it can take a long time. Um, it's not going to be weeks. The website, I mean, I've been doing this now, so we're in our 25th year, but it took, at least 5 years before really
right,
it was anything. And even then it was much less than it is now. So if it didn't bother me because I liked what I was doing, which is another thing. Do
right.
something, but you got to kind of be in it for the long term, and you can't do it very quickly and just hope, oh, I'm going to make it, and then I'm going to make my fortune or fame in this, and then move on. I mean, maybe you could do it. I don't know. That's not how I did it. I was in it for the long term, and that's why I think I've been successful.
Right, right. No, thank you. That's great to hear from you that to have the passion for doing something, and then, as you say, that it's not easy. It is a lot of work. As you said, that for last past 5 years you didn't make money, but later you did, and then it is a lot of work. Like I mean, so much content to update, so much contents to check, and to keep it doing again and again, and the persistently doing it is difficult, and that is something we all will take from you. And then that, as you said rightly, that to do well and to be well to people around us, I think that's important. And I have no, thank you again, Nat, for this wonderful conversation. And we all learned about pathology outlines, and I must say that colleagues around the world are very thankful, and they acknowledge what you have done for their pathology learning. And it's really heartening that you have devoted so much of your time in for the community at large. And you already have a global pathology community inside Pathology Outlines. We didn't have a chance to talk about it today. There is also another great resource for pathology communities if they want to be in touch. Maybe like, just quickly conclude about the global pathology community that you have started for last few years. Do you want
Right.
to
So
have
the
it?
directory right now, I think it's offline because we're making some changes to it. But I'm also looking for ideas. What can we do to make this more useful to pathologists? That if we have a list of well, we won't have all the pathologists around the world, but as many as possible. What can we do to help pathologists communicate with each other? We might make this login so that only pathologists can communicate with pathologists. Otherwise, I think most of us don't necessarily want to have the general public contacting us. I mean, if you do, you do, but this would just be for more pathologists to contact pathologists. So if you have ideas on what we can do, let us know. We have almost all the pathologists in the US and Canada. Um, we have some in India. Of course, India's got tremendous number. Europe is a problem because people have to sign up because of the privacy laws.
Right.
We can't sign them up and say, hey, is this okay? That's not allowed. So If you're from Europe, you can fill out our survey. We'll post a profile of you. We're willing to make changes. Just let us know what the changes are. But I'm looking for ideas because I thought if we have a community pathologist, that would be a great thing. You really don't see that for any other profession. You might see a nationwide community, but not global. And I think we are a global profession, right? When we
Yeah,
go to conferences, it's global, and
right.
cases go back and forth. We have the Cleveland Clinic is all over the world, and that kind of thing. So we're open to. So we've done a certain amount, but I'm still open for ideas on how we can make it better.
Right. No, thank you. And as to all those who are listening, so you have Nat's email that you can reach out to him if you have any ideas. And then for the upcoming authors, if you have things in mind that you want to contribute to Pathology Outlines, and as Nat has mentioned, the email is authors@pathologyoutlines.com. And again, Dr. Pernick, there are a lot of comments from the viewers who have joined online. Let me read one or two. Let me read the one. So one of our viewer who is saying that, can you comment on why there are a lot of pending entities?
Oh, so what happens is people come up with ideas. So, for example, hematopathology. They
Right,
come up with a new classification system and they come up with 50 new, it seemed like, bone marrow types of leukemia based on all these different mutations. Well, we got to find people to write them. So we call them pending. We have either, it takes time to find authors to write them. So that's really the issue is we go to conferences. I personally go up to people, try to recruit people. We recruit them from our booths. Um, our goal is to get these assigned, and we talk to our editors and our reviewers and say, hey, who do you know? Who do you know? So those are our priority. They're our top priorities to get these pending topics written. And we do keep track of it, and the numbers is going down. But if you know somebody who's interested in it, who's actually got some expertise in it, let us know, and we'd like to have them written. Because you're right, it is annoying. I don't like it either. So.
right. So there is another question that one of our viewers online who says that why don't you ask for donations like Wikipedia does? What is your comment on that?
We actually did do that, I don't know, 15 years ago, and I never liked it. We make enough money, and we're not a nonprofit. So, but we did it once. Somebody convinced me to do it, and we gave out prizes like T-shirts and jackets and caps and stuff like that. But then I decided, we don't. I suppose we could use the money, but not really. I mean, we make enough money. It's enough to pay the bills. I don't need an airplane or a fancy car or anything like that. I don't need to be like these, super wealthy people. So, so that's why we don't do it. Um, if people want to help, I think the best way they could help is uh, maybe by writing for us or finding us somebody who could write for us. That would be, or giving us a good idea. Those are the things that would help us quite a bit. If you want to help, um, for our directory, we have people called ambassadors who can um, help recruit people to the directory for their institution or maybe their country or their city. We don't pay them, but we give them a gift package. They can,
Right.
like a merchandise area, they can buy stuff with Pathology Outlines. What do you call it? Swag,
Uh-huh.
swag.
Do you have it on the website? I have not seen that.
I think it's at the bottom under.
Okay.
I
So yeah, you can donate through buying merchandise from Pathology Outlines website.
well, we make a tiny amount. It's not very much, but it's a way of you can get a T-shirt or a cap.
Right, that would be great. So you can flaunt yourself with the Pathology Outlines t-shirt that you
Right,
use Pathology Outlines so much. That would
right.
be great.
So I think it's at the bottom and it says merchandise.
Merchandise. So yeah, please viewers, look out for merchandise on the homepage, right? It's on the homepage.
Right. Well, on every page, it's in the footer.
Mm.
So if you click on the footer, and then it lists
Towards the
all
bottom.
the projects we've got water bottles and mugs and
Mhm.
shirts and pins and stuff like that. So
Right. Thank you again, Dr. Pernick. It was great to have you. And let me tell you that we had so many viewers who joined from all over the world. And as you know that, and as a user, I know that you have impacted pathology practice, you have impacted pathology education globally, and it's not an understatement or it's not an overstatement if I say that you have revolutionized pathology education across the world, and then to keep it user friendly, to keep it easy, to keep it free for anyone. And as you rightly say that people have internet access, but the content should be free. Right. So now that everyone has internet access and you have provided that and you have been doing it for such a long time to provide free content to our colleagues who are practicing and then who are willing to learn. And then, of course, I mean, we all want our patients to be served well. And that way, like, you are helping our patients in different parts of the world also, so that like our colleagues are having a better diagnosis. I mean, they are, because they are updated. And if not, what if they are not having the resources to come to conferences or to buy uh, subscribe to journals or things like that? But you have definitely complemented in a big way. And let me see what I see online. There are a lot of viewers who have joined from different parts of the world and who are thankful. Let me read for you. As I said earlier, that our colleague from Cambodia has joined, who is saying thanks. That there is a viewer from Afghanistan who has asked several questions, who is thankful. Someone joined from Sudan who is saying thank you. And then, here again, someone from Mexico is joining here, and someone from Nepal is saying that thank you, sir, for pathology outlines. Someone has joined from Myanmar who says that thank you so much. It has been a great help in my daily practice. I mean, you don't know how much impact you have made through this free research to our colleagues on their day-to-day practice. And there is again someone from Algeria who is saying hello. And let me see. Yeah, I think it's endless, and only those who have joined today, they have mentioned that how they have benefited. And I can, let me see, on YouTube also. So there are a lot who joined on YouTube. They have joined from Italy, they have joined from India, and someone said rightly that books are expensive and pathology outlines gives instant knowledge on my mobile. So you have brought knowledge to our colleagues to their fingertips. If there is a topic which we don't know and then somebody is struggling, everybody just first thing that they go on their mobile is pathology outline. So that is your legacy, Dr. Pernick, and we are all very, very grateful to you. And thank you all our viewers for joining today. And if you are liking pathology pathCast lectures, I would say that you can join our different social media platforms. We are on Facebook. We are on what's it called? Sorry, we are on Instagram. We are also on Twitter as well as X. So you can follow us there and get updated about our lectures. And we are also having a series of lectures in Spanish and Portuguese, which is coming up. So which we will call it Latin American Pathcast series. And our next speaker is actually Dr. Martin Sangueza, so who is a professor of dermatology and pathology who practices in Bolivia. And so he is going to talk on August 12th. So hope we will see you at that time. And thank you so much once again. Thank you, Dr. Pernick. It was a pleasure having you with us. Thank you.
Thanks so much for hosting me. I really appreciate it.